Namaste, I'm Samta Aunty, the founder and CEO of Virtual Preschool, where children have fun learning Hindi through English. Today, we're going to learn some Hindi greetings, how to say yes, no, and thank you. So let's get started. You've probably heard this word before, Namaste. This is a very famous word around the world. People use it all the time, Namaste, especially when they're doing yoga. And many people think that Namaste means hello, but actually, Namaste is how we say hello in Hindi. What it actually means is, I bow to the goodness in you. That's a cool way to say hello, isn't it? I bow to all the good things about you. That's what we're saying to someone when we say Namaste. And again, we use Namaste to say hello. Now, here's another way to say hello in Hindi that's a super special way that we can use to say hello to our grandparents. And this word is pranam. Let's say it again, pranam. One more time, pranam. So next time you talk to your grandparents, I want you to fold your hands like you see in the picture, put your hands together and say pranam. So pranam nani, pranam nanu, pranam dadi, pranam dadi, dada, pranam tata, whatever you call your grandparents, put your hands together and like namaste and say pranam. And you know what? It'll make them really, really happy that you did that because pranam is a very respectful way to say hello. Next, how do we say bye? We've learned how to say hello. How do we say bye? We say alvida. Alvida means bye in Hindi. Try it again. Alvida. Alvida. All right. Now, what about yes and no? How do we say yes and no in Hindi? So yes is ha and no is nahi. Yes is ha, no is nahi. One more time. Yes is ha, no is nahi. Now you might be wondering, well, if the word for yes is ha, why do I have the J-I at the end, the G at the end? Well, because in my classes, when I teach children Hindi, I like to teach them to be respectful. And adding that G at the end just makes it a little bit more respectful. So for ha, we usually say hanji, hanji. And for no, we can say nahi, or you could even say nahi ji. Nahi ji. But it's more common to just add the G onto the yes word, hanji. Hanji for yes and nahi for no. So again, hanji is yes, nahi is no. And now let's do some practice problems practicing these two words. So there's no right or wrong answer because it's all up to you, but I just want you to look at the picture and listen to the question I ask you and then tell me if you would answer yes or no. Do you like chocolate cake? Hanji or nahi? Do you like broccoli? Hanji or nahi? Is kala a color in a rainbow? Now, what does kala mean? Kala means black in Hindi. Kala means black in Hindi. So is kala a color in the rainbow? Hanji or nahi? Is Krishna Neela? Is Krishna Neela? What does Neela mean? Neela is blue, and this is the god Krishna. So is Krishna Neela, Hanji or Nahi? Well, Krishna is Neela, right? So we say Hanji. Is birthday cake made out of vegetables? Hanji or Nahi? Is the beach beautiful? Hanji or nahi? Are Legos awesome? Hanji or nahi? All right, now that you've learned hanji and nahi, let's learn some more words. How do we say thank you and you're welcome? This is important for us to learn, right? Because we always want to speak in Hindi and every language that we learn with good manners. So how do we say thank you and you're welcome? So let's do you're welcome first, because that one's a little easier. So in Hindi, actually, there really never was a word for you're welcome. It's kind of a Western concept that's been adopted into Hindi. So actually, we just say welcome. We just drop the your and we just say welcome. So in India, when somebody says thank you, we just say welcome. All right, so that's an easy one. Now, what about thank you? Thank you is a little bit trickier because it's kind of a mouthful. Dhanyavad. Dhanyavad. Try it again. Dhanyavad. 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 So let's do some practice problems practicing how to say that thank you word. So what do you say to mama and papa when they buy you toys at Christmas? You say dhanyavad, right? Thank you. What do you say to stewardess auntie? To stewardess auntie on the plane who brings you your meal and your beverages? What do you say to her when she brings you something? We say thank you, right? And how do we say thank you in Hindi? Dhanyavad. What do we say to our friend who lets us go down the slide first on the playground? You want to say thank you, right? How do we say that in Hindi? Dhanyavad. And what do you say to the lady at the ice cream shop that gives you your ice cream cone? You want to say thank you to her too, right? So how do we say that in Hindi? Dhanyavad. And what do you say to your friend who invited you to their birthday party? Dhanyavad. Thank you. Now, some of you, my listeners, might be wondering, Samta auntie, I don't understand because I thought the word for thank you was shukriya. Well, this is interesting because shukriya is also an accepted way for us to say thank you in Hindi, but actually the word shukriya is not a Hindi word. It's actually an Urdu word. Urdu is a totally different language than Hindi. Urdu is, again, a totally different language. But then you might be wondering, but if it's a totally different language, why do we also speak it in Hindi? Well, very good question. Because Urdu comes from the country called Pakistan, which is India's neighbor. Urdu comes from Pakistan, which is India's neighbor. And in that country, they speak Urdu, of course, and the language of Urdu sounds very, very similar to Hindi. There are many words that are different, but also most of them are the same. So that's why people who speak Hindi can speak very clearly with people who speak Urdu and vice versa. So learning Hindi is like getting a 2-for-1 special, because if you speak Hindi, then you know most of Urdu. And if you know Urdu, then you know most of Hindi. So it's pretty cool to either learn Urdu or Hindi, because then you're getting actually like a 2-for-1 special. All right, and let's go back to this word alvida now that we're talking about Hindi and Urdu, because actually, you guys, the word alvida is actually an Urdu word. Alvida, the way we say bye, we talked about it at the beginning. Alvida is actually an Urdu word. It's not a Hindi word. And the reason I taught it to you is because there actually really isn't a single way to say bye in Hindi. We have many different ways. Many people say different things, like phir milenge, which actually doesn't mean bye, it just means see you later. Or people say main chalta hu, which means I'll get going. Or at the end of a phone conversation, people might say phir baat karenge, talk to you later. Or people might say theek hai at the end of a phone conversation, theek hai, which is another indicator of ending the conversation, because it kind of translates to okay. I'm kind of like, okay, I'm done talking, but in a nice way. So the reason I teach alvida is because for kids, all of those other phrases are a little bit too much to learn at one time. So to make it simple, we say alvida, so that we learn how to say hello, namaste, and bye, alvida. And then I'll teach you all these other phrases later when you get more into Hindi, okay? But right now, let's just stick to namaste, hello, alvida, bye. But I did want to mention that technically alvida is an Urdu word and not a Hindi word. All right. In this lesson, we learned some Hindi greetings, how to say yes, No, thank you, and you're welcome in Hindi. So, dhanyavad, thank you for listening. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in class.